Pretty excited today. We've been invited by Chevrolet Canada to test out a new electric vehicle, the Chevy Bolt, the 2017 edition. And this is fully electric, no gasoline whatsoever. You basically charge it right through this port here. They've actually got 3 different levels of charging, level 1, 2, and 3. Level 1 would be 120 volts, typically what you'd find in your home. The next level up is 240 volts, and that's what you'd usually use for things like your oven and also things like your dryer as well. You'd actually have to have a special charger put into your garage to take advantage of that. And finally, they have the level 3 port here as well, and that's a high-speed charger that is available in many places in the city. It's actually a beautiful little car. It can seat apparently up to 5 people very comfortably, and it actually has a lot of room inside. So the rear seats can be folded down for even more storage, but also here you can see there's a lot of room here as well to put your stuff, your luggage, your sports gear and what have you. So the technology is not just limited to the car itself and the engine and what have you, but even the tires. These are actually self-healing tires. So if you were to ever run over, for example, a nail, there's a little liquid inside that actually goes in and repairs that hole. You might never know that you actually have a puncture in your tire because it'll actually self-heal and last for the life of the tire until you have to replace it after normal wear and tear. And so this is capable of doing about 200 horsepower, and you can see it's a lot smaller than your typical engine. Brings the weight down and also gives it more range. So what's exciting about the Chevy Bolt is that you can get up to about 388 kilometers of range out of a single charge, which is exciting, especially for people that have a long commute or want to drive up to vacation properties and what have you. Here in BC, I live in the Vancouver area. It's nice to drive up to Whistler. No problem with the Chevy Bolt. You don't have to worry about range anxiety. So what we're going to do now is actually take this for a little test drive up to Squamish, British Columbia, and see how this car performs. Let's check it out. I have to tell you, this car has a lot of room inside. Might look small from the outside, but it is very roomy, and very roomy enough for 5 people. Another thing I noticed right off the bat is the actual acceleration. This is a very peppy car. Like, you hit the gas and it goes instantly. And I think that's the thing with electric cars. You don't have to hit the gas and kind of work your speed up. It's always on and ready to go in an instant. This is completely digital as well. It's got a full color LCD screen in front of me that gives me all kinds of info. Obviously my speed, but also the amount of juice or electricity I'm using as well, and how much range I have. So this gives me a good way to actually anticipate the next time I'm going to have to charge. But again, with the range of about 383 kilometers, you can go in this little guy. It also has a sport mode. I mean, if it wasn't peppy enough already, you basically hit the sport mode and you get even more acceleration when you hit the gas pedal. And it's got something called regenerative braking, and this is a technology used to actually bring back power into the battery using the braking system. So there's 3 different ways to do it. You can obviously hit the brake. That's not the best way, but it works. There's also a paddle here on the side that can get you into regenerative mode right away as you hold it down. But an interesting mode is right here on the stick shifter. By bringing it into the L mode, or the low mode, the second you take your foot off, it starts kind of braking on its own without touching the brake pedal. And by doing that, it's actually using that power that's being generated from that to bring it back into the battery to kind of charge it up again. So when we talk about the 383 kilometer range, it's kind of a combination of all those different things. And you can use actually all 3 at once, so you don't have to worry about which one is going on. So then we have the main touch screen, or the LCD screen console here, and this thing is pretty amazing. It's got all sorts of connectivity. Number one, if you want, you can get an optional OnStar package, so you can actually make phone calls, have Wi-Fi through LTE, and also turn-by-turn directions. Or if you've got a smartphone, either an iPhone or an Android phone, you can connect that right in via cable as well, so you can get Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Another really interesting thing with the Chevy Bolt, this thing is full of cameras on the outside. And the reason is to help you navigate better. So for example, the rear view mirror here, you can have normal rear view mirror so I can see people in the back seat and of course out the rear window. But if I flip it, I actually get the camera view from the back of the car, which is kind of cool. You can actually see a much wider angle as you're driving. So it took me a little while to get used to. I thought it was kind of weird, but now that I have that, I love it. It's probably the best feature of the rearview mirror now. And also, with all those cameras, when you're parking, it's super cool. It's got the rearview camera, so it helps you, back into parking spaces and what have you. But it also has kind of a bird's eye view as well. So you can actually, with all the cameras right on the screen here, as you can see, I can do a full 360-degree view, kind of like an overhead view of the car while I'm parking, which I think is pretty neat. So my first impressions. Overall, I really like the Chevy Bolt. There's a lot to like. I love the tech inside, the entire console, all the information you get, being able to hook in your smartphone and share all that info as well. I also like the roominess and the power. This thing has incredible pep, more so than a lot of other cars that I drive, gasoline cars. And it really comes down to the math. You know, if you are driving a lot, if you're commuting like myself, for example, I spend about $500 or $600 a month on gasoline alone. And now with the range of the Bolt, it kind of starts making sense for me. I live, about 60, 70 kilometers away from my work. So with the range, about 383 kilometers, I don't have to have range anxiety. I don't have to worry about running out of electricity halfway to work or coming back. I can easily drive this to and from my work. So for someone like myself, it makes a lot of sense. If you're just in the city and just doing short trips, still a fantastic car, but then you have to do the math on how much it costs. In British Columbia, this thing's coming in around $37,000 after tax incentives from the government. In Ontario, it's an even better story. It gets it down to about $30,000 with the incentives the government is giving there. All in all, a great car. As far as an electric vehicle, I definitely would recommend it.